Hey everybody, this is Flammy. Welcome back. We're here with another subscriber base review. This week we're going to be looking at Town Hall 8s. Now, as always, with my subscriber base reviews, you can apply to have your own base featured in one of these in the link in the description. It is a link on Duckster. There's a quick application. If you've already submitted your base and you are not selected this week, or your Town Hall was not selected this week, you can of course update your application and I can possibly select it for next week. I will only be reviewing applications that have been updated in the last couple days. Otherwise, they often are out of date, or people have stopped playing, or have not been online lately. So if you switch clans, I can't find you, for example. Alright though, here we are with our first Town Hall 8 base. We've got Vincent here. So Vincent does actually have a message. He says, "I'd like to know my weakest points and any advice you'd have to fix them. It'd be very much appreciated." And then he lists his army composition, 200 supply with 40 barbarians, 45 archers, 40 goblins, 8 giants, 12 wall breakers, and 5 minions, which he calls Special Forces minions, which I definitely appreciate. Special Forces minions, for those of you who are not aware, are, let's see, does he have the army composition now? No, he has a dragon, but these minions right here, just throwing in 5 minions is what I call my Special Forces minions, because I can deploy them in sort of sneaky situations where perhaps they can do damage where otherwise they just can't get shot back at, so they're just sort of for sneaking in behind enemy lines, picking off buildings. Let's see, here's a good example right here. So if you want to pick out this elixir collector, and you just wanted the resources that were in it, or wanted to kill one more building, try to get 50%, well, this archer tower and this archer tower are both a little shy. You can look at their radiuses, and you can see if you dropped a minion right here, it'd be able to hit it. And the cannon, of course, can't shoot up, so it'd be safe to shoot those down. Unless, of course, there's clan castle guys in there. But let's talk about that in a minute. Let's answer your main question, Vincent, and that is defensive issues. Overall, it looks pretty good. You actually got some very clever things going on. So your top here and your bottom here are both open. 2 cannons in each, or 1 in each, I guess, is currently upgrading. But as you can see, there are holes here, and then 1 down here. Interesting there. That tells me that those are probably spring traps or bombs, likely spring traps. Spring traps would be more effective. I actually like that. It's pretty clever, especially with the air defenses in here. Air defenses, when you've got 3 of them that are all at level 4, that's very well upgraded. You don't need to have them super centralized. You've got 1 that's medium protected and 2 that are sort of centralized but not very protected, given how these are open. Interesting decision there. It definitely would deter people who are using like Mass Dragon, because Mass Dragon obviously can't take advantage of these holes. It would probably also deter Healer Giant, which is the other main thing you're going to want to look out for, because this air defense is still very centralized, and just because they could bring in Giants and take out this one before dropping the healer, well, it would sort of work, but it still wouldn't be that effective because your other 2 would still be up, and this one is still fairly centralized. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good placement on the air defenses. Definitely like to see that the cannons right here and here are upgrading. One thing you can do is take like this archer tower, for example, just swap it with this cannon. Just putting inactive defenses out there is always good, so you can just keep the inactive ones where the most risky position is, because of course inactive defenses don't actually shoot, but they will still distract giants and other units that go for the defenses. Let's look at Clan Castle real fast. Wonder what's in here. You are a clan leader. Interesting. Well, I wouldn't suggest having wall breakers, period, ever. They're sort of really, really, really bad on both offense and defense. Granted, there are a couple exceptions, especially with top players, where you might use wall breakers in certain strategies, but those are really unique and really specialized. So yeah, generally, don't ask for wall breakers, especially with a new message where you can request certain troops. Just say, well, this is what I do. I say I want archers and 1 wizard. And what some of my clanmates know that means is just donate archers, that's fine, or if you have wizards, just donate 1. I don't want multiple wizards, basically. If one person donates 5 wizards, that's 20 supply right there. Personally, I'd rather only have 1 wizard so it can do splash damage and the rest archers. So that's what I type out in my message. And of course, the message you don't have to type out every time. It saves it for the next time, which is very helpful. Let's probably go to the most interesting part of this clan castle, though, and that is going to be this healer. So, rather unusual decision here on defense to have a healer. I'm not sure if someone was just dumping this because they accidentally built an extra one or what, but it turns out if you have a healer in your clan castle and someone enters this radius and activates it, it'll actually not only heal units which are in the clan castle, but will probably more uniquely heal defenses. That's right, so if you have archers shooting at this cannon, or if you've got the previously mentioned minions shooting at this elixir collector, the healer actually will start healing the buildings to try to bring them up to full health. Very unusual and very little known fact about Clash of Clans right there. Is it effective? No, not really. Healers only have 20, 30, or 40 supply or heals per second if you look at their stats, and that is not very good. It works really well with giants because, of course, they do splash heals. But this healer right here, when it's healing defenses, it, of course, doesn't have that many in its defensive radius, so it'll only have the one main target. I guess in very special circumstances it might have more, but for all intents and purposes, it will only be healing one building at a time, and the healer's real power is when it's healing multiple units at a time. So too bad on that one, but it is somewhat interesting to see. Alright, let's talk about some other stuff. Alright, Town Hall 8s, like I said this week, we've got 2 upgraded storages and a third one, level 9. So that means a total capacity of 5 million. Really not needed. If you're about to upgrade to Town Hall 9, you could consider getting this up to about 5 million. You only need the second or the third storage, the more than 4 million gold, once you get up to Town Hall 9. As someone who just went through Town Hall 8, you definitely do not need this extra gold storage whatsoever yet. Of course, now that you have it, you probably should protect it so you're not losing gold every time you're attacked. But for people who are considering building their third gold storage, go ahead and skip it. Now, the only thing to make you actually create a third elixir storage is level 3 P.E.K.K.A.s are available at Town Hall 8 to upgrade and research, but they cost 6 million, so that means you would need 3 maxed out elixir storages. This one, you couldn't even afford it now. You've got 5 million elixirs storage capacity right here. So if you want to get those, you could get this one. Personally, I decided not to bother upgrading my third elixir storage until I got to Town Hall 9, so as of yet, I still do not have that personally. That's the only thing you would need the third elixir storage for. Other than that, you can get away with 2 gold storages for 100% of situations and 2 elixir storages for all the other situations other than those level 3 P.E.K.K.A.s. Alright, beyond that, let's talk about your army composition for a minute. Now, you don't have your exact same army composition you mentioned. The one that you sent to me in the message was 45 archers, so you cut back on those to get the dragon, as well as 40 goblins and 40 barbarians, so you cut back a little bit on those too as well. The other parts look the same, with 12 wall breakers and 8 giants and 5 minions. So what do I think about this? I think this is pretty good. I don't think the dragon is a very good addition. It's rather slow to train, as you can see right there, as well as it just doesn't really mesh with the rest of the army. However, the rest of the army, especially the one you listed, I think is a great combination. It's roughly what I use. Use a couple more wall breakers than me. That's fine, especially because they're level 4. As you get more of them, you don't need to have as many. Giants, great. Giants you'll probably mostly be using for distracting. The mix between barbarians, archers, and goblins are also great for getting resources, and I'm sure that's what this army is intended for, seeing as you are down at 1,300 trophies. Alright, Vincent, we're going to wrap up your base right here. Thank you for submitting. Overall, I think your base is really good. Suggestions, I guess the last point. I don't really have any critical ones. I guess the main one would be redesign. I like design. I'm going to say that. Redesign, but with your town hall outside. It's the only thing I'm going to say. When you're done at 1,300 trophies, assuming you're planning on staying here for more than like a week or two, definitely kick your town hall outside. It'll definitely help out. Last thing before I move on is something that's sort of unusual about this base is you'll notice there are actually tombstones around. So tombstones, tombstones, and the little ones in the gaps and stuff in here. This is actually something sort of clever that you can do intentionally, and that's not collect these. Someone who attacks might think that you're inactive and might be able to come in, try to steal this, but as you can see right here, with only 3,000 resources in this gold mine, an attacker would only be able to steal 1,500, so they might mistakenly attack for resources, which are not currently in these collectors and mines around the outside. So that is a tactic, so people on defense and offense should be aware of that you can try to pull that off, and not to be fooled by it. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching that one. On to our next Town Hall 8 base. Alright guys, here we are with our next Town Hall 8 base, Chevy from Reddit New, one of the Reddit clan system. If you guys would like to join the Reddit clan system, you should go on Duckster, as well as submitting your application. You should also join the Reddit clan system on there. It's just a way for us to let you guys know when the clans are open and have spots in them. Also, we do have rules and a password which you need to join, which are on this Reddit site, which should be linked in the description of this video as well. But onto this base. New does have a message, or Chevy has a message from Chevy from Reddit New. He says, I know my wizard towers need work, but other than that, what should I upgrade? Good question. Always like to see questions like that. Let's look at your wizard towers because you mentioned them. Level 1, nope, 2, 2, and I think that's 1. Nope, that's 2 as well. It's actually hard to tell between 1 and 2, but you can tell it if you look at the base right here. Look at that. See that purple down there? That is an indication that's level 2. Hard to see when you're zoomed out, though. Alright, yes, those do definitely need work, but what would I recommend upgrading beyond that? Well, mortars is one. Looks like they're decent, but you can always get these up to level 6. That's probably particularly important in your case, as you seem to be centralizing them particularly much. You probably also want to centralize your wizard towers more, or perhaps only once they're upgraded. I would generally say wizard towers and mortars are you're going to want to keep centralized in here. As for the town hall inside the walls, I can jump right on that. It depends what sort of your goal is. You are decently high for farming. I mean, it's still definitely possible to farm at 1546 where you're at up here, but generally, yeah, I mean, it's on the higher end is really just what I'm trying to say. If you don't think you can like stay up here without keeping your town hall inside the walls, that's fine. But I would probably say if you're playing actively, you can kick your town hall inside the walls and still be able to maintain this trophy count with just raiding maybe once or twice a day, just trying not to lose them, and even if you do lose some, just don't lose them all. Really is what it comes down to. But, yeah, so there are those points. Let's see, so by comparison, your air defenses are a bit lower, all level 3s, but they're all rather well protected, so I would not be concerned about air attacks. As well as our last base, you do have very well upgraded walls. I didn't mention that, but you only have a couple level 5 walls, and you even got your junctions up to level 7. Now, of course, that doesn't help with the wall breakers, because they do splash damage, but that should definitely be helping with things like giants, barbarians especially, other melee units, and units that will be taking out those walls. Giants is really going to be the big one, because you don't want them focusing on those critical junctions. Now, looking at this down bottom side, interesting, I think you sort of ran out of walls, so you just sort of decided to leave it open. Between the Barbarian King and this Dark Elixir Drill, you got some spots. I'm curious if you have some bombs in there. Of course, I can't see them because I'm not in your clan, but I think that'd be a good spot to have them. Especially with it on the drill side. You'll have perhaps goblins running in there to try to get your Dark Elixir Drill. But either way, the Wizard Tower does watch it pretty well, so that's interesting to see right there. Let's see, Teslas. I've got one here, one here, one here. I can't tell what level they're upgraded to, but always good to keep them up. In terms of the level of the Archer Towers and the Cannons, they're not great, but they're not terrible. I guess it sort of goes along lines with the mortars. Like, they're not bad, but they could be better as well. I would, of course, focus on getting the mortars and the wizard towers up first if you've got the gold, but if you don't have the gold and have the free workers that you're trying to get rid of, and as I can tell, you can tell all three of these workers are ZZZing, they're snoozing away, they do not have jobs. So as soon as you get the gold, I would just send workers off to occupy themselves by upgrading these arch towers, especially with some of them being down at level 6 and 7. I mean, 8's not bad. They do max out for Town Hall 8s at 10 for both archer towers and cannons, so definitely some room for improvement in there. Beyond that, let's see, what else? Look at your army. Ooh, you've got healers. Nice. So, healer giant probably. Yeah, probably. 13 giants. This is sort of on the light side, but definitely possible. You won't be able to take on well-upgraded Town Hall 8 bases with only 13 giants. Generally, you'd have to bump them up more. Personally, when I used to use Healer Giant, I'd use anywhere between about 12 giants and anywhere up to sometimes as many as 18 if I was expecting to have to take on either higher bases, which of course have more units or defenses and well upgraded defenses. But really the critical part is they got more of them and they're more spread out, so you need to kill buildings faster, which means you need more giants. But yeah, I do like that army composition, so you could consider upping that count. You do have a pretty high goblin count, which is fine when you're going for resources. Personally, I cut it down, usually one of the first things I sacrifice, but to each his own. Wall breakers, only 6. You generally don't need so many wall breakers with healer giant. Or giants especially are particularly good at getting through walls. They tend to focus down the same walls often. Or if they do spread out, they're only spread out between maybe 2 walls, 3 walls sometimes if you're unlucky. But basically, they can get through walls pretty quickly. You notice I mentioned that I was using 10-ish wall breakers for my own army compositions, not with Healer Giant, that's with infantry. But I definitely think that I would use 4, even 6. Both of those are just fine. Mix of barbarians and archers and goblins, all good. One wizard, not sure why you got that, sort of lonely perhaps, mixing in. You do only have 180 supply, so perhaps if you get the free elixir, just throw it into your army camps. Always good to get those up to level 6 each, which of course brings your maximum up to 200 supply. Alright, that was a pretty good look over your base. Let's see, is there anything else? What should you upgrade? I guess it sort of answered that. I would say first do the cannons, or the mortars, excuse me. First do the mortars because with this defense you really have them as a core, but at the same time I would not upgrade too many at a time, and of course do the wizard towers as you mentioned that you know about. And then of course if you can't get enough gold to do any of those, rather than just leaving it sitting in these storages, you can of course throw it at one of your other defenses that are upgrading. You only got about 400,000 gold right now, so you can't do much with that, but if you do get enough and you can't afford mortars or wizards, it would be fine to throw it into the occasional archer tower. Personally, I try not to upgrade more than one mortar and one wizard at a time, just because, especially with mortars, they're pretty important, and depending on the layout of wizard towers, they can be pretty important too. You sort of decentralize them here in this situation, but yeah, overall pretty good. Beyond that, one last suggestion I would probably say is consider swapping this wizard tower and this air defense. I just sort of like the idea of having this wizard tower more centralized, because then it can try to protect both of these elixir and gold storages up at the top. Down here you've got these wizards which watch these, and I really like how that works out. This one right here would be a bit of a stretch, but I think it would work out pretty nicely. Alright, thank you for submitting your base, Chevy. On to the next Town Hall 8 base. Alright guys, here is the third Town Hall 8 base, and the Town Hall should be up there. Nope, that's Lab. Where's the Town Hall? I'd expect it to be, oh, there it is, staring right at the ruins. Town Hall 8, as you can see. It is ruined, of course, because this player has been attacked recently. That is fine, though, because only the lab and the Town Hall and whatever this was, the barracks, have been taken out from the looks of it. Alright, so I think this sort of is a good example of what I was talking about before, where I said in both the other cases, you should at least consider moving your Town Hall outside the walls. As you can see, Greg here has 1764 trophies. Very good for Town Hall 8. Of course, I've seen Town Hall 8 above 2,000 before. I think I asked in my last Town Hall 8 video who has the highest trophy count for Town Hall 8, and I think someone commented they had 2,400. So yeah, it's definitely possible to be much higher with Town Hall 8, but I think this goes to show that even when farming Town Hall outside the walls, completely legit that you can have very high trophy count and keep your Town Hall outside the walls. And as you can see from this attack, all it did was take out one barracks, Town Hall, lab, and let's see, did it damage this even? Where's the health? No, it did not damage this at all. Just very simply, people will attack, and only for the sake of taking out your Town Hall. They get a couple trophies, you get a 12-hour shield, definitely worth it. Now though, to look at this base, Greg, you don't have a message other than Flammy, you rock. Thank you very much for that. I will say, trying to bribe me with sweet messages, sorry guys, doesn't work. I pick the base, pick the person I'm going to do randomly, and then I start reading the messages. So you can't try to bribe me with that. Let's look at this base though. Something I have not looked at in the previous ones that I probably should have is Clan Castle being centralized. I believe they were at least somewhat centralized, otherwise I probably would have commented on it, but this is a very good example of a very centralized town hall, or Clan Castle. Great to see Clan Castle centralized. It's just really, really helpful if someone decides they're actually going to attack. In cases like this, though, where they only slightly attack, your town hall, see it? See that ring right there for the Clan Castle activation? Your town hall's outside of that, so that's great. That means they won't be killing your defenses if they just attack your town hall. That means you don't need to spam your clan mates for reinforcements constantly, and of course you can keep donating to them if you want to, but you don't need them to donate to you all the time. You can save it for offense or the next attacker in case the first one fails. Now beyond that, let's see, what do you have in the center? Always good to see what's in the center first. Dark Elixir storage. Great to see this because I can tell it's very full. 26,000, very, very full indeed. Air defense, interesting choice. Definitely a big deterrent. I'm pretty sure it probably would not get activated too often. But let's see, I see your second one right here, very obvious. Did you not have a third? Oh, yep, it's out here. Good. So actually, this is a great decision. So if you've got one air defense that's upgrading and you're sort of concerned about being attacked because you only got two others, just centralize one bit more because that makes it a lot better protected. Sort of going back to our last base where we had Chevy, you'll notice that the wizard towers and the mortars are very centralized in this base. Notice high-level wizards, high-level mortars are very powerful to keep in the center. You don't actually have any other defenses centralized quite as much. The next most centralized is, of course, the air defenses, and after that is the Teslas. Notice that makes all the cannons and archer towers sort of pushed on all the way out to the outside here. And speaking of them, this is a very well upgraded base. If you guys do not realize this, the level 6 wizards are maxed out, the level 6 mortars are maxed out, the level 5 air defenses are not maxed out, but this one is going up to maxed out, and personally I consider air defense the last priority for upgrading. As long as you're level 3 or 4 or above, you're just fine. There's just why is that? They're slow, they're expensive, and I don't consider them as important. Yes, it's good to get air defenses. Yes, it's good to upgrade air defenses. Yes, air defenses are worth it to upgrade eventually, but air defenses are, because they're slow and expensive, they only get used in a couple battles. Like, I would say I probably only use my air defenses in, what's a good estimation? Probably only about 10% of my battles are they ever used, period. And probably only 2% of my battles total are they actually significantly used. So, I mean, if someone attacks me with mass minions, it doesn't matter. My air defenses, like level 3 or above, they're one-shotting those minions anyways. It doesn't matter if they're level 5 to level 6. Level 3 does just fine. If it's someone using mass dragons, well, that's the situation. That's the 2% chance when having well-upgraded air defenses actually does matter. But beyond that, your defenses are very maxed out, as I was sort of talking about before I got sort of sidetracked on ranting about air defenses a little bit. So these cannons are all maxed out. Your archer towers are at least getting close to it. Level 9s, level 10, level 10. I saw another 9 over here, and then level 10. So yeah, doing pretty good. You're clearly getting pretty close to upgrading. Interesting, I thought there was going to be a Tesla here, and Tesla here, except I see one is upgrading out here, level 4, because I can actually see what level this is. Level Teslas, of course, just like Wizard Towers and Mortars, go up to level 6 for Town Hall 8, so good job getting those up. They're expensive, they're slow, actually they're really slow. I think it's like 12 days, 14 days, something ridiculously long like that. I think it's 14 days to get up to level 6, not to mention they cost like 3 million gold, which is like equal to getting your Town Hall up to 9. Ugh, ridiculously expensive. But yeah, really good layout. I like this. You've got a sort of square thing going on here with then rectangles outside of it. Pretty common. Walls are very well upgraded. These skull walls, level 8, if those of you guys who are not aware, cost $500,000 each. These level 7 walls cost 200,000 each. So these are some rather expensive walls we got here. And these, of course, level 8 walls are the maximum for Town Hall 8. Now, last of all, I'm sort of trying to figure out what you've got in here. I'm thinking you might have a giant bomb, or just might be a placeholder for the Tesla. Either way, that'd be fine. I wouldn't recommend having air bombs. I like having air bombs sort of spread out around the outside, especially where you think mass minions might come from. Air bombs, of course, do great splash against minions. Air-seeking mines, however, are great for sort of more centralized position. By being in there, that'd be a great place to keep them. Units are not likely to step on either a bomb, a spring trap, or a giant bomb while in there. So those would be a great choice to sort of back up these two air defenses. Beyond that, just keep saving your Dark Elixir up. As you can tell, this is a very well upgraded Barbarian King. Not that surprising given the fact that you're up at 1,700 trophies. I would guess that you've been staying up here for a long time. Dark Elixir is much easier to come by up at this higher trophy count, so definitely makes sense why you'd have so much of it to spend on your Barbarian King, and why you'd have your Barbarian King up to level 9, so good job with that. Beyond that, let's see, not much else to talk about. I mean, I could talk about sort of anything that I wanted to. Let's talk about your army really fast, because I do notice you have an interesting composition there. You've got dragons down here, you've got dragons and giants over here, and then you've got a whole bunch of wizards over here, and I see a couple wall breakers. So let's look at this army composition. 6 giants, 3 dragons, 2 minions, 1 wall breaker, and 26 level 5 wizards. So, oops, close that by accident. So those of you who are not aware from just looking at this, the wizards is going to be the major part of this army. The dragons take up a good chunk of the supply as well, but the wizards are really going to be the damage dealers. Interesting, very interesting. The giants will be for meat shields for the wizards. The dragons are going to be for distracting archer towers, although I would consider probably giants are going to be both more cost effective and just straight up more effective at being meat shields for the wizards. So I don't know, interesting decision there. Minions, maybe those special forces minions. One wall breaker, probably not going to do much on its own, but maybe that's left over from a previous army composition or something. Or you just had 2 supply to get rid of. Interesting. The wizards, they got crazy good damage per second. They are also very slow to train and not very cheap. So definitely an army composition you don't use all the time, but perhaps if you got off a couple hours ago and were training them for use tomorrow morning, that'd be a good time to train them. Alright though, that's going to wrap it up for this base. Thank you very much for submitting your base, Greg. And very nice layout, very well upgraded stuff. You're looking like you're on a good track, and you'll soon be at Town Hall 9, I expect. Thank you very much once again. On to our 4th and final Town Hall 8 base. Alright guys, here we are with our 4th and final Town Hall 8 base for this subscriber base review video. This is Treetop's base, and it is indeed a Town Hall 8, once again, destroyed on the left, but also once again, not much other damage done beyond that, a little bit more than previous. As you can see, like the elixir collectors down here, they are damaged and, well, I guess completely destroyed, but of course they do keep collecting, as you can see it counting up right there, despite the fact they're destroyed. Always a little amusing to see that, if you ask me. Let's look at this base, though. So, Treetop does have a message, and he says, I am almost maxed out at Town Hall 8, just working on a few more things before I upgrade my Town Hall. My design has been working well so far, just wanted someone else's thoughts on it. Thank you so much. Alright, indeed, this does look like it's pretty well upgraded. It's sort of interesting. The first thing that strikes me is it's a rather square base. Now, it seems sort of weird because, of course, it's got all these jagged lines around it and stuff. But if you look at it this way, look at if you draw a box right down here, over here, up here, and back over again. It's a very square in that sort of way of looking at it. Generally, bases are more long along either this axis or this axis, and that's because, of course, the buildings are aligned along those axes, which means the walls are as well. Looking at your base, though, let's see how well upgraded you are. Archer towers, I can tell right off the bat. Looks like they're all 8s, except for this one, of course. So that means a bit more work, and that's, of course, slower than you're probably expecting. It always goes slower, I'd say. You do have a ton of gold, so I can see 3 gold stores, which all not, while they might not be full, they're at least close to. So yes, that's 1.2 million gold in each, which means 3.6 million gold total. Not a small sum whatsoever. Let's see, what are you upgrading currently? Let's see, 1 Tesla, 1 air defense, 1 archer tower, 1 other air defense, so that's 2 air defenses. So that's 4 workers right there. You might not have another one, or just might not be seeing it. But that's a pretty good chunk of stuff. Those are not cheap, especially the air defenses going up to level 6. Those cost, I think, over 2 million gold. I'm not really sure. Can't remember off the top of my head. Don't upgrade them very often. But, yeah, good job keeping those upgraded. Keep them going. Of course, all the important things are maxed out, which means, to me, is the mortar, wizard. All those are maxed out, so good job with that. Cannons are upgraded as well. Not that surprising. We've seen this a couple times now, where the cannons are maxed out at level 10, but then the archer towers are sort of lapsing behind. Well, why that is, if for those of you who are wondering, well, the cannons to get up to level 10 are actually cheaper than the archer towers by comparison, versus pretty much the same stats actually once you get up higher. Archer towers are actually a little better early game, but then cannons are a bit better late game, but their stats are nearly equal, and they're just better because of the fact they're cheaper. And they'll actually be slightly faster. Can't remember that part as much though. Beyond that though, interesting layout. You do have, once again, very nice walls. Seen that a couple times now. You have your corners as well, very well upgraded walls, all up to level 8. Now, I would consider rearranging these, however. Let me explain why. So, if someone attacks and they use, say, mass goblins, and they like put down goblins right here, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to go for here, and then they're going to work their way around, right? That means this wall would never be attacked by goblins getting in towards this. Well, what if they did wall breakers? Well, say they put down 2 wall breakers right here. They come in, detonate on here. They might, even if they don't kill this level 8 wall, I think they would, but 2 level 5 wall breakers, I think they would, but if they didn't, they would definitely kill these two ones right here. These two level 7 walls right next to it, because of course wall breakers do splash damage, meaning they hit more than just their target, they hit around their target as well. Basically, the point I'm sort of getting at is having these level 8s on the corners is, while it might be somewhat effective if you, say, have like the next wave of goblins coming in from that first example, generally they're not going to be super effective to have level 8s on the corners. I would say a better use for them would be on junctions, inner junctions. So that one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Those sort of things which you don't want people breaking through in the center. It's not a huge difference, so this is a super like 1% or even like 0.1% difference. I just think it's interesting to talk about strategy, especially when I see someone doing something that I think could be slightly more efficient if they do it this other way. So yeah, that sort of goes for these other ones on the other side as well. Just something to think about. And if someone else has some thoughts on the matter, feel free to share them in the comment section. Now, after you did all those inner junctions, what would you do? Well, one possibility is to do these outer corners, but to make them effective, you'd probably want to double them up, so you'd have 3 walls in the corners, which is very expensive and very slow. Just adding these, upgrading those 2 right there, that's 1 million total gold. That's sort of ridiculous. Instead, of course, keep your workers busy is great, and just keep your defenses rolling on the upgrades. Beyond that, let's look at a couple other things. So you do have a couple holes in your base. You got one down here, one up here. Not sure if the air defenses are normally right here. You might have temporarily upgraded the single air defense because the other two are upgrading. But I do like these holes. They will almost certainly have spring traps in them, and if they don't, I would highly recommend it. One thing I would say, though, that I would recommend doing is moving your defenses inside, or moving your outside building closer to your defenses. I don't know how I misspoke that. But yeah, so like this army camp, just make it snug in here. Why is that? Well, look at this right here. This cannon, it can't protect this army camp from archers that are deployed on the bottom down here. But say this army camp, instead of being centralized right here, was centralized right here, where it was snug in this corner. Well, then this cannon would be able to help out. It might not be such a huge case in that, but if you think about that, sort of extrapolated all the way around the base, it happens over and over again. So like this army camp in 1, this barracks in 2, this elixir collector in 1, this army camp in 1 in 2 directions, this army camp in 1 in 2 directions, this builder hut in 1. Basically just moving everything in, snugging it up as much as possible, just helps out. Same sort of thing with even like these sort of outer things. By snugging this in more, you can then snug this in more. Just look at the ranges on these cannons. They would not be able to protect this lab down here at the bottom from barbarians. Just barbarians would almost certainly be able to take that out for free, and certainly archers would. One barbarian just smacking at it for a minute or two just takes it out. I'm always a fan of keeping everything as tight as possible. Not only does it help your outer defenses target as many attackers as possible, it will also help your inner cannons, mortars, wizard towers occasionally, depending on where they're positioned, take out as well. So this mortar right here, imagine if this army camp, once again, was right here. It would just be on the range of the mortar for this, which means any barbarians which are attacked in that army camp, very real possibility, would be completely susceptible to being splashed up by this mortar. Absolutely ideal right there. Yeah, that's about it. We're going to wrap it up for this Town Hall 8 review. Thank you very much for submitting your base, Treetop. I'm going to go into some brief overview information for how you guys can apply to have your own bases included in this subscriber base review. Now, if you guys would like to be included, I rotate which Town Hall I'm doing each week. So this week, of course, was Town Hall 8s. Next week, I don't know what it will be. Let me know in the comment section what you guys want to see. But if you guys would like to apply, there's a link in the description. It'll say, go here to apply. If you don't have a Duckster account, just sign up for one right on the page. It's very simple. And fill out your information. Now, if you fill out your information on Monday, it's a good idea to come back later towards the week, maybe Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Saturday, sometime in there, and just update information, especially if your trophy count or clan has changed. That way, I'm able to make sure that all the people I review, or try to review, I can actually find them. If I search for someone's clan which you listed and you're no longer in it, well, I can't review you. If you guys did submit one already, just simply go back to that exact same link and just update your information. It will autofill all of your information. You won't have to type it back in. Just update anything that's no longer correct and hit save once again, and it'll just update it for me. It won't like spam me with multiple, so don't worry about that. Of course, it does mean you can only keep one submitted at a time, but that is probably fine. And if I announce ahead of time, sometimes I do, that I will be accepting, say, Town Hall 8s, and you've got two of them, one 7, one 8, just submit your 8 for that week. Beyond that, I do recommend you guys follow my Facebook and Twitter as well, as I do put out reminders ahead of when I start reviewing, so you guys can get your information up to date. So my Facebook and Twitter, of course, will be linked in the description of this video as well. Beyond that, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, not only the 4 of you who were lucky enough to be picked to be reviewed, but also everyone who's a Town Hall 8 got some good tips, and anyone thinking for some layout defenses in general got some good tips as well. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you had a great day. Clash on.